A tough election year ahead, control of the Senate at stake. Why not retreat yourself? As a matter of fact, today, right at this very moment, Senate Democrats and Republicans are doing just that, huddling with their respective members, summoning resources, and plotting the way forward in 2014. For Democrats, that means circling the wagons on an ambitious agenda for the middle class. The majority party is gathering its ranks at Washington Nationals Park, where earlier today, President Obama made a special guest appearance, and later tonight, former President Bill Clinton will pop by. Republicans, meanwhile, have moved Dysfunction Junction just across the street from the Capitol to the Library of Congress, where they are perhaps enjoying the dulcet tones of their own guest star, the American Enterprise Institute's Arthur Brooks, who recently prescribed a formula for happiness in the New York Times opinion pages. Quote, "Free enterprise gives the most people the best shot at earning their success and finding enduring happiness in their work. Free enterprise is a moral imperative." Pocketbook issues are said to be the GOP's focus today, but despite the CBO's latest report that immigration reform would boost economic growth, do not expect that to be foremost on their agenda, or possibly anywhere on the agenda.
I think we have a sort of an irresolvable conflict here. The Senate insists on comprehensive. The House says it won't go to conference with the Senate on comprehensive and wants to look at step by step. I don't see how you get to an outcome this year with the two bodies in such a different place.
Joining me now, making his triumphant return to this television show, is the managing editor of the Washington Post politics section and author of The Fix, the inimitable Chris Cillizza, and Washington bureau chief for BuzzFeed, a man for whom victory is no stranger, John Stanton. I felt like I had to write that in there because it was weird. You know, you're both triumphant victors, and we're very happy to have you on the show. Chris, I'll start with you. The irresolvable conflict. They might as well just rename the grand old party the party of irresolvable conflict. I will quote Frank Rich today when he writes, "In the long term, the most consequential piece of political news over the past 24 hours was not the CBO ruckus, but Mitch McConnell's declaration that immigration reform is an irresolvable conflict. The longer the GOP stays its course on immigration and remains the xenophobic party, the more its prospects shrink in national elections." I kind of tend to agree with Frank Rich on this. It sounds like prospects of a reform resuscitated briefly are once again DOA or dying.
I think you're right, Alex. Here's the deal. When Mitch McConnell, I tell the people who I work with, when Mitch McConnell talks, make sure that you listen, because Mitch McConnell is a guy who, like him or hate him, is very savvy as a political strategist and is relatively honest in his public pronouncements for a politician. I think that what you have is you had John Boehner hired. John Boehner hired a woman named Rebecca Talent, who used to work at the Bipartisan Policy Center, on his staff to potentially work on immigration. Then President Obama said some sort of bipartisan things about immigration during the State of the Union. Now all of a sudden immigration is on the fast track to passing. I think McConnell rightly says, well, wait a minute, it's comprehensive versus piecemeal. And those two things don't go together naturally. I think it is sort of a cooling off period. That you are exactly right. I mean, the number I always tell people, Alex, 27%. That's a percentage of the Hispanic vote Mitt Romney got in 2012. If the 2016 Republican nominee approximates that, the path to 270 electoral votes is virtually non-existent.
John, what accounts for that? I mean, irresolvable conflict. What accounts for John Boehner sort of at least ringing the wind chimes of possible reform, and then basically Mitch McConnell stomping on said wind chimes yesterday? I mean, are they not communicating with each other? And I would also ask you, how much is the fact that Mitch McConnell is up in a re-election fight, how much does that inform his kind of no-go attitude?
To a certain degree, I think it does have a bit to play in terms of his own re-election. But I think there's a bigger issue that goes on here. You're now getting into the point of the election cycle where the Senate and the House priorities start to diverge. And for House Republicans, they want to try to do something. They want to show that they can do sort of big things. They want to do it after the primaries in May and June. For McConnell, what they want to do is they want to focus all of the efforts that they have on forcing Democrats into tough votes and into bad spots where they have to side with the Obama administration on economic issues and on Obamacare and things like that. They don't want to give Democrats in the Senate a huge win on something like immigration reform. And so for McConnell, he's looking at this as, we have a shot this year at taking back the Senate. We want to keep the focus on things we want to talk about and not on things that the Democrats want to talk about.
Yeah, but, you know, self-control has not been something that the GOP has been particularly good at in the last year, Chris. And Ted Cruz said about immigration reform, I guarantee you President Obama and Harry Reid are dancing in their offices at the desire of the Washington Beltway crowd to light themselves on fire, in a reference to passing immigration reform. I would ask you the same question about the debt ceiling. We're now hearing rumors that there may be, you know, that House Republicans may demand some concession in raising the debt ceiling. We thought that was settled a few weeks ago, and once again, we're talking about it.
Look, deja vu all over again, to quote Yogi Berra, Alex. Look, the reality is, remember Plan B? That was John Boehner's leadership-led proposal on the fiscal cliff that was going to sort of put Barack Obama in a box and make it hard for him to get out of that. That never even got a vote because the rank and file in the Republican Party didn't want it. Remember the Farm Bill? We're going to get it passed. Same problem. Look, you've seen House Republican leaders, whether it's tying it to approving Keystone, whether it's you know, this risk corridor repeal in Obamacare, they've tried a couple things with their conference to say, well, what if we did this? Could we get the debt ceiling passed? The reality now, I think, is those things haven't gone anywhere. Right now, to get that debt ceiling passed, they have to sweeten it with things to get Democratic votes. Democratic votes. This is an acknowledgement, and we've seen this happen many times during John Boehner's speakership now. They cannot pass it with just Republican votes because, frankly, there are 30 to 40 Republicans who will not vote for things that John Boehner wants them to vote for.
Right. You know, I want to talk a little bit about the role of Democrats here, John, and we know that the big dog is going to the Washington Nationals Park to speak to the conference. And I wonder, you alluded to the Mitch McConnell and the lusting after regaining or taking back control of the Senate, the potential that exists there. What do you think Bill Clinton is talking to vulnerable Senate Democrats about tonight?
I mean, I think he has to tell them to try to stand firm in terms of where they are as a party, but to not allow themselves to get boxed into these kind of fights. I mean, he was always very good at sort of avoiding these kind of pitfalls that Republicans lay out there, and a lot of the members, you know, like Mark Pryor and others, aren't necessarily as good at it as he is, and he's going to need to go and sort of reassure them and say, you can still win with this president, you can still win with these policies under your belt, you need to own it to a certain degree, but also find your own path. I think that is sort of, he's going to try to calm them a little bit and to also give them a little bit of a boost, because right now, you know, the narrative is certainly that the Senate Democrats are in danger of losing control of the chamber, and I think he needs to come in and sort of buck them up a little bit.
He kind of needs to be like Clinton de Bergerac and stand underneath the window and speak for Mark Pryor when he has to defend himself in Arkansas.
Exactly.
That's
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Steve Martin as Serrano. That movie is wonderful. Anyway,
Very Martin.
Showing my age.
You're a spring chicken, Saliza.
Justin Bieber. Snapchat.
Just say it. Just say the terms, and then everyone will think you are Gen X. Okay, we're going to leave it there. The Washington Post's Chris Saliza, Bieber fan, twerk, and BuzzFeed's John Stanton. Thank you.
Thank you.